Thank you, Cahirlock, and I'd like to agree with the sentiments of every speaker that I've heard speak just before I come in. And I'm reminded by what some of our previous speakers have said, by a particular incident 2 years ago. Various Voices, which is an international gay and lesbian choral festival, takes place every 2 years, and Dublin was, luckily enough, the place to host it. DCU was the campus, so we had choirs from all around the world, from places that we wouldn't think that would maybe have the types of human rights that we have, such as maybe perhaps China and places like that, had gay and lesbian choirs come as far as from there to be in DCU to celebrate a festival of music. And I was at it for 2 of the days. I was asked to speak at the opening of it, and I'd never heard of it before that particular time. And apart from just the great music that came out of it, on the second night I was sitting in the atrium of the Helix, and my partner was there with me, and we were chatting to some of the other I can't sing, by the way. I was only there in another sort of a format. I wish I could sing, but I can't sing. And we were there, and essentially what I'm trying to say is it was just full of gay and lesbian people, pretty much so. And, you know, Derek Nolan spoke about when people notice that they're denied something, it's then they feel excluded. And it was probably one of the very few times in my life, Chair, whereby I had a penny-dropping moment around feeling excluded. And it wasn't that I felt excluded there, it was that I felt so included there. And I think for the first time in my life, you know, I think I felt what it must feel like to be straight in this world, if that makes any sense. And I turned to Dara and said, you know, because I was feeling this sense of, imagine if the world was this way. Imagine if everybody had to live in the world that I live in, as opposed to what I felt was living in a world that sometimes most other people don't live in. What would it be like? And it was topsy-turvy for a while, in my favour, so to speak. And it felt magical. It felt absolutely magical. And it lasted such a short period of time. And then after the penny dropped, you know, the excitement and the glory of what it must feel like to be fully human and accepted dissipated, and it turned to anger. It turned to frustration. It turned to denial, and all of those things. And I became angry and frustrated that I live in a world that doesn't fully accept me, is what I was trying to say back then. And it was a rare moment, but it was a moment that gives you some sort of energy, and you have a choice of what to do with that energy. And of course, you know, the referendum was on our work path here. Things were building up. And I chose to make sure that I would do and encourage as many other people that I knew to do what we could in order to convince the Irish people, who really didn't need much convincing at the end of the day. And it was just one of those poignant moments, which I was reminded of this morning when the Minister spoke. And there was a really nice sense after the Minister spoke this morning, although there were very few of us in the chamber and there were some people in the gallery, but there was a really strong sense of a positive connection. And it brought me back to May 22nd, to that moment that in so many ways I'll never forget, but I can't relive the feeling and experience of that day, because in politics you get on to the next issue and you don't get a chance to hold on and live that experience for a little longer. You just deal with the next thing and you keep on doing that. So this morning opened up the can, and a good can, a can of hope and aspiration, of the type of life that we can have and are having. And I just wanted to say that. I have a couple of points that I purposely put down, because people know when I speak I tend not to read from things, but there were some things I didn't want to let go, but I also want to put that in. So going back to May the 22nd, the hearts, hopes and dreams of a minority were placed in the hands of the majority of Irish people. They were entrusted to make a decision that one way or another would directly impact upon the lives of thousands of Irish citizens. For me and countless lesbian and gay people in our country, we were relying on the generosity of our fellow citizens to afford us the right to be treated equal under our Constitution. And that reminded me of when my brother got married back in '94, my older brother of 17 at the time. And one of the lasting memories that I can still remember from when my older brother Roy got married was that at the time, I never thought that that would ever be an opportunity for me. And I accepted it at that time because I just didn't think we lived in a society that would ever reach that point. And we have. The next morning after May 22nd, as the ballot boxes were opened throughout the country, it was so clear that the majority of our fellow Irish people had given a resounding yes to a better life for our lesbian and gay citizens. Yes, the referendum was about marriage equality, but in many ways it was also about how we as a society view our lesbian and gay friends, brothers, sisters, family members and neighbours. But most of all for me, what shone through during the campaign and on May 22nd was the overwhelming sense of common humanity that exists at the inner core of each and every one of us and joins us together as a people. A humanity that is rich in love, generosity and compassion for everyone and knows no boundaries. And that's something that some of the other speakers spoke about here today. Something struck a match in the Irish psyche, in the inner core of what makes us as people. And that shone through on May 22nd. It shone through in a way that I've never seen in my life here in Ireland before. The nearest thing was when we hosted the Special Olympics, and I think the Irish society shone through in a way that I had never seen in my life. And the next thing after that was on May 22nd. The generosity of people. There was something in the air. The air felt different. There was an extra injection of joy. People were feeling their best all across the country. It was amazing. And to everybody in our society, we should never forget what we achieved on that day, because it was together by identifying what joins us rather than what makes us different is what made our society a better place. And I think, as other speakers have said, we must try and harness that as much as possible, Chair, in our Irish people, our citizens here in Ireland, because we are good people. We are amazing people, and when we work together, we can see what's right and wrong in society, and we can work towards making the change and making it for the better. And I wish in some way I knew the formula to reinvigorate that to happen again, because together we achieved great things, and we did. As a society, we have travelled a long way on the road to equality. From the dark days of when being gay or for the like was a criminal offence, or for the likes of when the gay switchboard, which was set up 41 years ago now, I think at this stage, could not put its name in the phone book because it had the word gay in it. Right through to May 22nd of this year, when the people of Ireland spoke powerfully and profoundly and said yes, yes to equality and yes to love. We really have come a long way. I want to say two things. To the thousands of volunteers, political, non-political, the NGOs such as Yes Equality, made up of Glen, Marriage Equality, ICCCL, and those who I haven't mentioned. All of those who knocked on the doors, perhaps in many cases for the first time, which is a nerve-wracking thing for those who aren't politicians, or who are politicians know without a doubt. And to those who won over the hearts and minds of Irish people by telling their stories, whether it be me, Jerry Buttimer, the ordinary Joe Soaps, who should not be forgotten here today, the Ma's like my own Ma, who was a shy woman, but she put herself out of her comfort zone into a place because she believed in doing something that she believed was right. I want to thank you. I want to thank you on behalf of everybody, not on behalf of me, and I want to put that on the record. It's because of all of those Irish people. No longer shall some of our citizens be forced to live in the shadows of our society as second-class citizens as they have in the past. No longer should it be seen that they be battered or bruised or excluded. Today, we stand tall together, shoulder to shoulder, as a better society, a nation of equals. Thank you, Chair.